in to the NHL trade deadline, and everyone was talking, are the Senators going to move Karlsson? Yes, they're going to move Karlsson. It's just a matter of what team he's going to go to.
It's when, not if, right?
Yeah, that was what they were saying. If you didn't think the Senators were going to move him, that's fine. I totally get it. But if you had to put together an offer that Ottawa would accept for Karlsson, what would it be?
Oh, wow.
Just because he was the guy that I really wanted.
Yeah,
for
that
the
would have
Islanders.
been the biggest splash of the offseason. Well, not even the offseason, the trade deadline.
It would have been a perfect move. It made sense for both teams. I mean, I'll tell you mine. It would be...
I would have definitely flicked the Hamonic picks.
You would have flipped the Hamonic picks.
Probably Brock Nelson, too.
Nelson, maybe, if the Senators wanted him. Maybe someone like Joshua Ho-Sang, if the Senators think that they can save him. Kiefer Bellows, definitely. Ilya Sorokin, because Craig Anderson has looked old. He is not the goalie he was in Colorado. I would have done it. I'd have mortgaged the future for Erik Karlsson if I was Garth Snow.
That's a good and a bad thing, though.
Why is it a bad thing?
Because, let's say, I'm not saying that Karlsson's a bad player, but, like, let's say you give up so much and it doesn't work out. I get it. It's a huge
Define not working out. Still missing the playoffs?
Still missing the playoffs, not enough.
Okay. A, I think it brings John Tavares back.
Yes, I can agree with you there.
And B, let's say Tavares really just has his heart set on getting off Long Island. Assuming he does. I don't know if he does or not. The only person who knows that is him. You can then trade Karlsson, flip him, and get some of those assets back. It would honestly be a win-win for the Islanders to trade for Karlsson. And the fact that Snow wasn't willing to go all in to get him scares the living mercy out of me.
Yeah, I can totally understand where you're coming from. There were a lot of Islander fans that were saying, you need to get Karlsson. This absolutely needs to happen. They had the same mindset that you have. Just go all in for this year because you don't know what next year holds. John Tavares could be in a different sweater next year.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, if Tavares leaves, everyone not named Matthew Barzal and Anthony Beauvillier is tradable.
I agree. I thought Brock Nelson was going to be gone at the deadline.
Yeah, Nelson could have gone, but I do like him on the third line.
I do, but
I'm not as low on him as some people are.
It's not a matter of being low on Brock Nelson. It's just a matter of he's been the hot scorer as of lately. He's been the hot hand.
Yeah, Tavares has fallen off a cliff.
Tavares did fall off a cliff, so obviously the Islanders weren't thinking about trading John Tavares, according to Garth Snow, which, you know,
which was the right thing to do.
Yes, I can totally get on board with that, but I was surprised, and I'm going to tell you why, not hearing names like Brock Nelson, Casey Cizikas, Thomas Hickey, even Cal Clutterbuck.
Assuming the Islanders re-sign Chris Wagner, Casey Cizikas will be traded. You watch.
I mean, I was just shocked like those names weren't even on the discussion table. I'm just shocked.
Well, let me ask you this. The way the Islanders are sitting in the Metro right now, to go back over to the Rangers for a minute, they're 5-16-1 in their last 22 games, and they're still only 5 points behind the Islanders. So it's a pretty safe bet to say that the Rangers aren't going to make the playoffs. If the Islanders don't make the playoffs after doing nothing this deadline, do you think that impacts the Tavares decision this offseason?
Absolutely, because if Tavares is sitting back, if he's sitting, because the Islanders were off yesterday, they were practicing, if Tavares is sitting at home and only seeing Wagner and Davidson at the deadline, if I'm him, I'd be thinking, wow, I'm in the biggest question mark of my professional career right now, and my general manager isn't going all in to say, hey, we want you, because we don't even know if Tavares is in contract discussions right now. They say they're not, and I can commend them for saying, I don't want this to be a distraction from this season. I'll wait to the end of the offseason, which might scare a lot of people, but I can get it.
Yeah, I understand it.
But the problem is like, yes, they needed help, especially defensively. I wouldn't have mind if they did not get a top four defenseman, but yes, I like Davidson. I'm going to get to that in a second. But even if they got a goalie, I heard Robin Leonard's name mentioned 1,000,001 times. If they got him as well, I would have said the Islanders had a good deadline.
Aaron Dell from the San Jose Sharks also.
If you have gotten a goalie on top of Wagner and Davidson, I would have said Garth Snow did good. But in terms of the Davidson move, I do think Garth Snow did good on this one, because this is a guy, yes, the stats don't really jump out at you, but he's a defensive presence that honestly the Islanders desperately need. And especially on the scoring threat, this is a guy that can actually hit the net too, because the defensive pairs, with probably the exception of Boychuk and Leddy, have problems hitting the net, especially on the power play or when you're in the offensive zone. And this is a guy that's very physical. He can block shots. He's an all-around defensive defenseman. And I do think that Garth Snow did good on this one.
Okay, that's fair. I, to be honest with you, don't know too much about Brandon Davidson. I just know what the stats tell me. And the stats are telling me that to give up a third-round pick for someone who only has 5 points, that's not very good.
But the Islanders sent scouts to all these Edmonton
I was
Oilers
going to get
games.
to that.
Yeah, so they must have seen something. But there's also a part of me that thinks, Garth Snow sees something in him. And he's made trades with the Oilers before. And so far, they relatively worked out. Jordan Eberle is in the discussion of working out, but he's making a good case for himself. I do think that Garth Snow did well on this one. I really do.
That's fair. Speaking of the Islanders, they traded Jason Chimera to the Ducks for Chris Wagner. This year, Chimera has 11 points in 58 games, and Wagner has 15 points in 64 games. Who do you think won the trade?
Honestly, I think the Islanders did well on this one, too. Only because Jason Chimera is much older, and he hasn't been playing. He's getting... he's being a scratch to basically Tanner Fritz, who is...
And Fritz is horrible.
That's the thing. Fritz is bad.
He stinks.
He's bad right now, but he led Bridgeport in scoring. So there is threats there.
Whoopsie-doo.
Granted, yes, I know it's the AHL, but the scoring's there. He can score. The AHL, especially, is for NHL players that just missed the cut, or there are players that just keeps getting sent up and down, so they have NHL experience. But there is scoring there. So, and on top of that, Wagner is younger than Chimera. He's more physical than Chimera, and I do think that the Islanders won this one too. And to get a guy like that for a guy that's not even playing as much, to me, it's a steal.
I really like Chris Wagner. Him, I know. He's a physical guy. I think he's in the top 5 in hits in the NHL. He's number 2. Okay. He's a very good penalty killer. He's played in every game so far this year, and this opens the door for a Casey Cizikas trade. Let me tell you. When this trade happened, I honestly thought the Islanders were going to flip Cizikas. I honestly did, because Cizikas and Wagner filled the same role. They're both fourth liners.
Yes.
Now what are you going to do? You're going to put one of them on the third line? You're going to put one of them on the wing? I don't like that. It's just a typical Garth Snow deadline to make these safe moves, not go for it all. And I agree with the recently erected billboards. Snow must go.
And you know what's blowing my mind about this, too? There are teams around you that you're contending with. The Blue Jackets, I know we're going to get to it, got better.
It happened last year, too. Every team around the Islanders got better last year. It's the same thing this year.
And even then, they still missed the playoffs. Granted, yes, by only 1 point. But still they missed the playoffs. That's the bottom line.
I don't care how many points you had. You still missed the damn playoffs.
How do you want to say you're a contender or a playoff hopeful and only make 2 deals in a year where you have so much going on?
And they needed more moves. They needed way more help than what they were getting because, yes,
these guys are not game breakers. Davidson's a top 6 defenseman, and Wagner's a fourth liner. That's not going to be the difference maker to getting you into the playoffs.
No, it's really not. That's why I was surprised to see Brock Nelson was still on the team because I feel like you could have got a lot for Brock Nelson. I was watching the NHL Network at the end of the deadline. They got to the Islanders, and they had an ongoing theme. Is anybody home? Like, what is Garth Snow doing? Taking a nap? I'm not even...
Snow must go. It's that simple. He's the worst executive in the NHL.
I'm honestly surprised he lasts this long.
He must have some serious dirt on Charles Wang or something, man. I don't know. I don't know how he keeps his job. I just don't, man.
I think he's gone at the end of the year, to be completely honest with you. I really do. And I wouldn't be upset.
No.
I really wouldn't.
Are you kidding me? I'd be doing backflips.
I feel like a lot of Islander fans would. All of Nassau County would.
You're listening to Beyond the Game on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We are live twice a week, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Fridays at 3 p.m. I'm Jacob Volk. Sitting across from me, Eric Fischetti, Joe Ardita, and Carpe Diem. Number to call if you have something on your mind is 516-572-7440. And speaking of the phones, we do have a caller on the line. Caller, you're on Beyond the Game.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's your name and where you're calling from?
It's Brian. I grew up by Eisenhower Park. I live in West Palm Beach, Florida. I went to Clark High School.
Yeah, I remember you called in a few weeks ago. How are you, buddy?
Good. The Yankees are on TV tomorrow on Yes. So if you guys want to watch the Yankees, I went to the game last night. They played the Phillies, and this guy Andujar hit some shot last night.
Yeah, Andujar's a very highly thought of prospect. He's kind of blocked now with the addition of Brandon Drury.
It's going to be tough to keep him off the roster, though.
You know what? If Andujar keeps raking like this, it's possible you could put Drury at second and Andujar at third. That's not crazy.
Yeah, I like Drury. I watch a lot of the games on MLB Network. He's a pretty good player. I think the Yankees got a steal in him. He reminds me of like a Zobrist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, super utility guy. When that trade happened, I was standing on line to enter Dave & Buster's for the Islander event, and I see the update. I show my dad, and I'm jumping up and down, bouncing on his shoulders. I was so happy because I'm a big Brandon Drury fan. I like this trade.
He's got high potential.
I like that trade a lot for the Yankees. Joe, I want to get your opinion on it just because you've been out of the hockey discussion.
No, that's cool. I mean, I was just going to say that, with Andujar and the Yankees kind of have, not a logjam, but there's a lot of positions that are filled and they kind of have some people sitting to the side. Like, with the outfield, like Clint Frazier, you have a couple of things that you can do. You can kind of mix and match people in the lineup, but I was going to say that's really not a bad problem to have.
No, it's the best problem in all of sports to have.
Exactly. And I think, like you said, Andujar is very well thought of. I can probably see him, if he progresses the way he's supposed to, probably getting into the starting lineup this year. And I've been watching the spring training games. I've been looking forward to this season ever since Game 7 in the ALCS last year. I never felt more proud to be a Yankee fan in like 10 years.
Agree with you.
Since 2009,
it's been a while.
So I'm ecstatic to see what's going to happen this year.
I agree with you.
Also, I grew up by Eisenhower Park, so I went to Nassau my first 2 years. What is going on with the Islanders? Are they going to play half the season next season in the Coliseum?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about doing. It's a joke. It's a tease to Islander fans. Brett Yormark said that they were just a rented team in the Barclays Center. That was one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard in my life. He said that they didn't embrace Brooklyn. That's 100% true. But you know what? Brooklyn didn't embrace the Islanders. You didn't roll out the red carpet for them. They were second-class citizens there. The fans were treated like second-class citizens there. To be honest with you, I think there's a racial component to it because I've been to net games and the crowd there is predominantly African-American. I don't see too many fights there, and I saw a lot of fights at the Islander games, which were predominantly white crowds. I'm not afraid to say that. The Barclays Center staff is racist.
I tend to agree with you. Like, I was at the first Islander game in 1972 against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
God bless you.
I was there for history. I also went to the first net game against the Pittsburgh Condors in the ABA.
Yeah.
So I was there for the first Islander and the first net game. I hope the more Islander games come back to the Coliseum because they're missing out on Nassau and Suffolk people. My friends live in East Meadow and still in Westbury, and they're not trekking into the Barclays for games.
That's why they're going to Belmont.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's Floral Park, but I'm saying going from Westbury to Brooklyn for an Islander game, that's a haul.
It is. It's sickening. The Islanders treat their fans like garbage. They always have, and to be honest with you, they always will. These new owners, Ledecky and Malkin, I don't like them.
And to be honest with you, especially going on terms of the Barclays Center, and I'm not even trying to say, it's just something I noticed. Especially at the Barclays Center, I feel like the Islanders are even second class to the Nets, and the Nets are bad. And they still, no, I'm not
the
even.
Nets stink. Let me tell you.
No, but
I can at least still watch Islander games. I can't watch net games. I know they won by 17 yesterday, but gee whiz.
No, but the thing that I'm trying to say is, like, obviously Brooklyn is not a hockey anything. Like, they have not embraced it. It's more basketball, which I completely understand.
It's not even that great for basketball, to be honest with you.
But even then, they still sell. I'm not going to say sell out. They still put more butts in the seats than the Islanders do because no one wants to go because most of their fans, the Islander fans, are coming from here. They're coming from Nassau County.
Yep.
So it's just a joke.
Well, let me
honestly.
ask you this: the Islanders haven't. I don't think they've sold out over 13,000 seats in that in the Barclays Center this season. Like, why?
I don't think they have either.
Why wouldn't they just embrace the 13,000 at a Nassau Coliseum every season until the new arena is built? They'll sell out every game.
Because you're not going to make money that way.
Yeah, but they're not making money in Brooklyn either.
But they think that they're going to make money in Belmont.
Well, they will. I'm saying until Belmont is built.
They won't. Let me tell you, they won't. And Brian, thank you for the call. I do appreciate it. The reality is Islander fans are bad fans. They're not going to show up if their team is bad. I don't care if it's the best arena in the world. The fans aren't going to show up. I said this 2 weeks ago. Nothing's happened to change my mind. You know, you're telling me that just because you're building a new arena, the fans are going to show up? What is this, Field of Dreams?
Team's got to be good.
The team has to be good. This isn't good.